Welcome everybody. My name is Mushimsanim. Those of you who know me, we already met, but for those of you who don't, I am the abbot and live at the Kerongsan International Zen Center, which is between Daejeon and Nonsan in Kerong City. So let's go over, let's review a bit about what we were talking before. We were talking about the Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch, and we have this new book now that has been published, the Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch. And this is a completely newly edited version of the old book. The old one had some kind of very obscure and Chinese style English, which was kind of funny and difficult to read. And this one has very modern English, very good. I really hope that we can get it for this class. And I'm working on that, but right now I just have one copy with me. I hope that we can all have this book. And if you happen to be able to read Chinese, the front is in Chinese and the back is in English. And this has been edited and revised by Zen Master De Kwang. He wrote the foreword, and so I hope we can all have copies of this book soon. And these printouts that we got, the one in particular, chapter 2 on Prajna, is from this book. Now I noticed that chapter 3 is from the old book, actually. So it says Prefect Way. It actually should be Governor Way. This is from the old book. So in the next class, we want to use always the printout from the new book because it's more modern English. The old book is actually, the English is kind of like antique style English. It's hard to follow. I think we don't want to learn antique style English in Korea, do we? We want to learn modern English. For example, here it says the prefect way, but nobody nowadays uses the word prefect, so we say governor way. In the new version, in chapter 2, on Prajna, it says the governor way. Those of you who are new to the class, this Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch is the one Zen text that is included among all the other sutras that the Buddha spoke. Most Zen texts are not considered part of the Buddhist sutra library, but this Platform Sutra is considered very profound and very unusual, and it was considered to be of the same level of the speech of the Buddha. So Sixth Patriarch, who was born in China, gave many talks, and he was revered like the Buddha himself. And so this is really a kind of epochal turning point in Zen Buddhism, because this great patriarch appeared, and he was revered like he was considered like another Buddha, a Chinese Buddha. And this marked kind of, we could say, a turning point in the Mahayana Buddhism and in Zen Buddhism. So before we already went through we finished chapter 1, and now we've been looking at chapter 2. And last month, I reviewed some things about chapter 2. One thing is we talked about if you go to page 3, please go to page 3 in your booklet, in your handout. Chapter 2, page 3. We talked about the prajna, and we talked about prajna. What is prajna? Prajna means wisdom, and it says in the second paragraph here, it means wisdom if at all times and in all places we steadily keep our thoughts free from foolish desire and act wisely on all occasions, then we are practicing prajna. One foolish idea in prajna is shut off. one wise thought, and it flows again. So what is this that we call wisdom? This is not so easy for us to explain, because most of our understanding of wisdom is that when you get older, you get some wisdom. Most of our understanding nowadays is that you have to kind of get past the 60 years old, and then you become a wise person because of all the mistakes you made in your life up till then. And maybe by the time you get 60, you'll have some wisdom. But the Buddhist concept of wisdom is not like that at all. The Buddhist concept of wisdom is that we keep our minds clear, and we keep our minds free from foolish desire, and we act wisely on all occasions. So how do we act wisely? If we keep our minds free from foolish desire, we can act wisely, but usually our minds are full of foolish desire. And most people have many different kinds of desire for having fun or entertaining themselves, or gaining some advantage over others around them, have some ambition to advance themselves, have some ambition to achieve something. And it's hard to know what is actually foolish and what is not foolish. So the sixth patriarch, the way he taught people was that we must first attain prajna without form. And this prajna without form, he called the Prajna Wisdom. And so this without form prajna means that we do not see it. We do not, it's not something that we learn about in a book. It's something that we have to attain, and we have to practice it. In order to attain it, we have to practice it. So he often told his students, you must practice the prajna wisdom, and that was together came with the paramita. And paramita is a Sanskrit word that means going to the opposite shore. And we have this famous mantra that is at the end of the Heart Sutra called Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gati Bodhiswaha. It means beyond, 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 all going beyond, beyond to the far shore. So this mantra is the kind of like the call word to take us past the foolishness and our foolish thinking and our foolish desire. We use this paramita mantra to take us beyond. So beyond, beyond. This paramita means going to the opposite shore. It means not controlled by life and death. How do we do that? So one thing that the patriarch points out here is that a lot of people talk about emptiness. They talk incessantly about emptiness, but they don't know the true void. So what is this true void? What is true emptiness? So many Korean people know or have heard of the saying, Jingong Myoyu. In true emptiness, there is some mysterious existence. Jingong Myoyu. That means if we truly become empty, there is something mysterious. There's some mysterious existence. We can't know it. It can't be seen. It cannot be understood by our empirical thinking. It's not something we can measure. But we can't deny that it's there. So this is what the sixth patriarch called prajna. Our wisdom mind has it. Our mind is it. But it's without form. So before I just said, Jingong Myoyo, in true emptiness, there is mystic existence. So if we truly empty ourselves, if we truly become empty, there's something mystic. There's something that we cannot deny, yet we don't completely see either. It doesn't have any form. So sixth patriarch called that prajna. And paramita means to go to the opposite shore. So by keeping this prajna, by practicing this prajna, we can go to the other shore. We can cross the other shore. Now, Buddhism often talks about crossing the swiftly flowing river of life and death. Buddhism often makes an allegory that life and death are like a very swiftly flowing river. And in order to get to get out of life and death, you must cross that river. So you come to a canyon, and you go down this canyon, and there's a deep, very swiftly flowing river. Maybe some people in this class have already experienced taking a raft down this swiftly flowing river and trying some river rafting. I heard in Korea they have that now. In Gangwon province, you can go river rafting. In America, it's very popular. The people would do this on the Snake River in Idaho. They have this very swiftly flowing. And you're lucky if you don't get thrown into the river. So this swiftly flowing river of life and death is always happening around us. And it's always tempting us to do various actions that later we end up kind of paying for. And so one of the first teachings in Buddhism is you must cross this river and get to the opposite shore. And the opposite shore is the place where you're not being pulled around by life and death. You're not being controlled, or you're not being threatened, or you're not being in danger. You're free from life and death at this opposite shore. This is also called nirvana. And so we must cross the swiftly flowing river of life and death. Now, somebody gets to this riverbank and they see that there's a boat there. Somebody, by all miracles, left a boat that they can use. And they use this boat to cross the river. And they get across the river. But like most people, they think, this boat is very useful. I cannot just leave it here on the opposite shore. I have to carry it with me. So they put it on their head, or they put it on their shoulder, and they carry it. It's very heavy. And soon they're sweating, and it's really difficult. So this is another part of the Bodhisattva teaching that we have, is that when you use that boat to cross over to the opposite shore, leave it on the other side. Leave it at the river for the next person. Don't carry it with you. So the Buddhist teaching, however wonderful it is, we have to not just keep it for ourselves. We have to share it with others. So no matter how good this teaching is, no matter how much it helps you to be free from the anguish of the passion or the desire of the world, we don't want to keep it for ourselves. So we leave it on the other shore. Then the next person can come along and they can use it. So that's one of the very fundamental teachings that we have. Now, of course, you might say, well, how's the next person going to get it if it's already on the opposite shore? But this is just an allegory, actually. This is really a kind of metaphor for the way we should practice. Of course, this raft does not exist outside of your own practice, your own minds. So once we cross this swiftly flowing river and we get to the other shore, then we don't have to carry the raft with us anymore. And the same goes for this Buddhist teaching, for this very exquisite teaching of no form. Once we arrive at the other shore and we've finished, we've studied, and we clearly attain it, we don't have to carry it with us anymore. We can give it to others. We can share it with others. So this opposite shore means not controlled by life and death. If we cling to circumstances, appearing and disappearing appears. It is like water which has waves. This means this shore. By not clinging to outside situations, there is no life, no death, no appearing, no disappearing. It is like water which is always flowing. The name for that is opposite shore. That's why it's called Paramita. So in Korea, many of you have been here for a while. You hear about 6 paramitas. One of the fundamental paramitas is the Boshi paramita, or paramita of giving, the paramita of generosity. This is the first of the 6 paramitas. And the generosity paramita is very interesting because when you give, you always get more than you gave. If you give with an open heart and you give unconditionally, you always get more than just what you gave. So this is considered also one of the ways to get to the other shore. So some people think in a very narrow fashion that the only way to get to this other shore is by practicing a very difficult meditation and by doing some kind of asceticism and not eating more than once or twice a day and by sitting for many hours. And of course, all these things are practices, but they are not the only way to get to the other shore. We have the 6 paramitas, which all are ways to get to the other shore. Generosity, and the precepts, behavior, and endurance, by being patient, and also by meditation, and also by concentration, and by wisdom. The final paramita is wisdom. And this is what the 6th Patriarch talked about. He did not talk about the other ones. I'm mentioning them because we say paramita. But the one that he talked about the most was Prajna Paramita, or Maha Prajna Paramita. So he went on to say, one foolishly passing thought makes a person ordinary, while an enlightened second thought makes one a Buddha. This is a very important point. This is kind of the cornerstone of his teaching. That if you think for a few moments, I'm really ignorant, I can never become a wise person, I don't have the IQ to become a wise person, that foolish thought makes you an ordinary person. While an enlightened second thought makes one a Buddha. If you humbly say to yourself, I don't really know what is my nature, and I'm willing to question what is my true nature, and openly ask yourself, what is my true nature? And I'm not sure, whether I have wisdom, but I will ask myself, what is this that we call our nature, that we call ourself? Then we say that's like an enlightened thought, by looking into our nature and questioning. That's an enlightened thought. That leads us towards Buddhahood. That leads us towards attaining our true self. So this is a very fundamental point of his teaching, that by arrogantly assuming something, or by having many foolish thoughts, we become an ordinary person. But if we allow ourselves to question and ask ourselves, what is this that we call ourself, that we call our nature, then we can find a way to enlightenment, we can find a way to becoming a Buddha. And continuing on, he says, learned audience, the Mahaprajna Paramita is the most exalted, the supreme, and the foremost. It neither stays, leaves, or comes. By means of it, the Buddhas of the present, past, and future will attain Buddhahood. We should use this great wisdom to break the 5 skandhas. To follow such a practice ensures the attainment of Buddhahood, and the 3 poisons, greed, hatred, and illusion, will then be turned into sila, good conduct, samadhi, meditation, and prajna, wisdom. Many of you who have practiced or studied Buddhism in Korea already know about what the 3 poisons are. tam, jin, chi. Everybody understands. 3 poisons. Greed, hatred, and illusion. Those are the poisons that plague people. First of all, people feel greedy. They always want more things. Even they get a new car or they get a new house, when somebody close to them gets a better car or a better house, they feel bad. They want something more. Even they have good clothes, somebody near them has more expensive clothes. So they again feel bad and they feel greed appears. And then the next thing that appears when they're not satisfied is, we say, anger or hatred. People tend to get angry at each other and hate each other because they are not satisfied. We say that that anger usually appears because inside people's desire is not satisfied. And this dissatisfaction and frustration of not getting what you want, or being in the presence of those you dislike. There are many different causes, but this kind of dissatisfaction causes us to get angry. And when we get angry, we hate. So it says here, hatred. The word here is hatred, and there's nothing more poisonous than this hatred. When we get angry and we start to hate others, we make mistakes quickly because we're not acting from our Buddha nature. We're not acting from this clear and wise mind. And then the final one is illusion. The final poison is illusion. So this is often translated as ignorance or darkness. Koreans say 무명, 무명. 무명, if you break down the Chinese characters, means lack of brightness. So illusion or ignorance is lack of brightness, lack of bright wisdom. But what the sixth patriarch says here is very interesting. He says, if we use this great wisdom to break the 5 skandhas, we will change the 3 poisons, greed, hatred, and illusion. They'll be changed into good conduct, samadhi, and prajna, wisdom. So that's very much sort of the key point here, that you use this great wisdom to break the 5 skandhas. 5 skandhas are form, feelings, perceptions, impulses, and consciousness. For example, we think this world is real. All of us think this world is real, and we think that it's not changing. We say the sun rises in the morning, sets in the evening. Does the sun really rise in the morning? We say the sun rises in the east every morning. Does it really rise? No. The sun doesn't rise at all. The earth turns. The earth is turning, so it seems like the sun rises in the morning. You say, the sun rose. The sun set. We think this world is a certain way. We have a way. Human beings make this world. So they see this world as some solid kind of material thing. But actually, there's very little in this world that's solid. There's very little that's permanent and that's material, almost nothing at all. And so we have this illusion that the sun rises, but actually it's not the case. The earth turns. And why does the earth turn? When did the earth start turning? And if we really ask ourselves, when did the earth start turning? We can't answer. Even great physicists, even people who study physics, and if you ask them, when did the earth start turning? It's very difficult for them to answer. Maybe the earth started turning when we learned that it was turning. We don't know. We're not sure when the earth actually started turning. But we do know through physics that it's the earth's turning that makes it look like the sun rises, the sun sets. So many things in this world are like that. We believe this world is solid and it's not moving and it's material, but actually it's an illusion. It's changing all the time. Another example, my teacher always used to give this example to Korean people when he was teaching them. He said, you go down to the Han River in Seoul. You go to the Han River and you look at the Han River and it looks like very real. It's there. And you see the Han River and you say, oh, the Han River has a lot of water. It's kind of high today. And maybe you saw it in the morning. And then you go to see it in the afternoon or towards the evening. And you look at it and you say, the Han River. It's the same Han River. But it's not. By that afternoon, already the water that you saw in the morning already went down to the ocean. It's already flown down to the West Sea. You may think it's the same Han River. You may think it's the same water, but it's already changed. Just as you were watching it, just as you were walking by the Han River, already a good part of what you call the Han River has flown down towards the ocean. So our existence is like that. It's changing all the time, moment to moment, changing. So we have this idea about how the world is, but we have to really ask ourselves, what is this that we call ourselves? What is it that is our nature? What are we really made of? Who are we? It's a good question. So if you can use this wisdom to break up the 5 skandhas, which is form, feelings, perceptions, impulses, consciousness, then you change the 3 poisons. Greed, hatred, and illusion will then be changed into sila, which is good conduct or precept, samadhi, meditation, and prajna. So this is a very interesting point. So how do we use this wisdom? First, we have to attain wisdom. And the way we attain wisdom is by looking at ourselves, by asking, what is that we call our mind? What is that we call our nature? What is our true nature? Unless we do that, we'll continue to follow the myriad different forms, the myriad of different feelings. We'll be controlled by them. We're controlled by forms. We're controlled by feelings. Just as when there's a big sale at the department store in downtown Myeongdong, like the Lotte department store or the Shinsegae, when there's a big sale, wow, everybody goes to the department store. It's very difficult to find a parking space, and it's very crowded. And maybe by the time you reach the store and you get in, the item that you wanted to buy is already sold out. Or maybe you buy the item and it's not what you really wanted. It's a different model. And you're really disappointed. Many times, our minds are like that. We're deluded by some quick, we want to get something quickly. So we're very kind of enticed by getting some quick bargain. Many times I was driving in Seoul, driving my teacher's car and driving him around, and I saw all these people swarming around some kind of like department store where they're having some big sale. And the road was very crowded and it's very difficult, and you wait for a long time and to get moving. And you wonder if people don't take that into consideration when they go for some bargain. Actually, you pay for it in other ways. So we use this great wisdom to break up these 5 skandhas. And by doing that, we attain Buddhahood, and the 3 poisons are turned into the Shila, the 3 virtues, actually. So, 6th Patriarch pointed out about this, that if you can change your view of things, then ignorance is no longer ignorance. This illusion is no longer illusion. Illusion becomes wisdom. That was the whole point of his teaching. All you need to do is change your view of things. You don't need to change anything else. If you change your view of things, that which was once ignorance, which was this lack of brightness, this lack of intelligence, becomes wisdom itself. So you don't find wisdom somewhere else. You don't find wisdom outside of yourself. It's not something you find in a temple, or it's not something you find in a library. It's not something you find anywhere. It may help you to be in a temple, may help you to be in a library, but ultimately, inside yourself, you already have the roots of wisdom. And many Buddhist teaching is like that. All right, that's where I'm going to finish today. Do we have any questions?